I'm Elisa Mortensen, and this is Undo Redo. Let's take a look at all the things that happen in life that we would like to undo and have a chance to redo. Hey listeners, this week fall has hit pretty hard in Utah. My mind is constantly telling me that I should just go outside, just go be outside. And this has been a small problem for me because I'm inside working a bunch. And although I do go outside early every morning as part of just my routine, and it seems like no matter how much I do that, and that I recently went paddleboarding on the reservoir and went biking and hiking just an hour ago, there's something in my mind that isn't satisfied. It just needs to go back outside all the time. If I'm not outside right at that moment, it doesn't mean I'm out there. So I don't know. There's that. But do you guys ever get that way? Like, do you love something so much and think that it's just going to go away soon, or you're not happy unless you're doing it at that moment and it just pulls on you? Just interesting to notice, I think, lately. My husband took a job offer recently, which is so weird because it's been like 24 years of working for the same place. So he is no longer working for one place, and that was about an hour plus away from here, and he's now working in our own area. So it's only been a couple weeks now, and we're still learning what it really looks like for him to have a more calm schedule and different kind of responsibilities. Which leads me into the topic of today, unpacking our baggage, because we carry things around with us no matter where we go, no matter what outside changes, we're the same inside. So I had this friend one time, a long time ago, when I was just raising our kids, and she moved from Ogden. And I guess I would describe her as a little bit of a hoarder and kind of unorganized. It was a tiny home, and she moves up to this great big home, and she was the same way with it. Although it was new and it was empty, like the same person comes with you from one job to the next or from one house to the next, unless you change what's inside. So let's talk about unpacking our baggage, right? And with a side of not carrying their baggage. I could have made 2 separate episodes here, but I didn't. Our burdens get carried around with us every moment of every day. That's why I call it baggage. I'm going to help you think about your baggage in a useful way. I came up with 6 ways to pull it apart and to talk about what you carry, what weighs on you, in order to lighten the things that are in your baggage and leave the things that you are through with behind. I'm going to start out with bringing your attention to your identity, how your past has shaped you. This is real. Who you are is a result of all you have experienced. It's healthy and it's natural to use this as a point of reference to make sense of your conditioning and your tendencies, because choices you make today are often influenced by what has happened in your past. And that helps you decide who you are today. So there's identity in your baggage. And if you want to undo something that you don't identify with anymore and you don't want to be a part of, something that you have believed about who you are this whole time, you're able to take it out and leave it behind and shed light on it, lighten it with a better, more useful story, and take it with you into the future. And I'll talk more about that. In fact, you can refer to my episode, 2 Stories, 1 Reality, if you wonder how to change the story about your past into something that's lighter. I tell 2 stories very differently, and it's the same story. Okay, now let's go to closure. Closure's next. So we started with identity, now we're going to go to closure. Our baggage that we carry around, there's things in it that need closure. So it's important to look at your burdens and what's heavy for you today and see if you aren't still victimized by something. How do you tell if you're still victimized by it? First of all, it's in the narrative about it and in the feelings it brings up. It sounds as though you're still held down by it or at the effect of it. It has a villain, okay? So when you put it to rest and you accept it and you let it go, which are pretty much all the same thing, you'll no longer feel that war inside about it. There won't be negative energy there. You won't need to rehash it, to tell everyone about it, and you'll no longer be stuck in that story of how awful it was. Your unprocessed trauma from it can leave you running in a state of fear today and tomorrow and the next day unless you let it go. So carry that baggage if you want, but your relationships, your self-worth, your decision-making, they're greatly all impacted by this fear that we carry with us. Fear perpetuates what doesn't currently exist. The fear of what happened in your past and that story that you've victimized yourself to, okay, that story you're holding really, really tight to, it actually isn't happening right now today. That's what I mean. It doesn't really exist right now today. It did happen in the past, but right now today, it only lives in the baggage that you're choosing to bring along. It just lives in that big bag, and you're just bringing it along with you. The next one is self-acceptance. When you come to terms with your past as a story and it being a part of who you are in beneficial ways, it changes all the energy around it. An example would be if you feel like you were talked into something and you're mad about it because you feel like people manipulated you and brainwashed you. You know, I wasn't strong enough back then and vocal enough about it, and I didn't know enough, and you guys tricked me, right? It was so unfair. It's uncomfortable when that happened. But with your brain now today that knows better, you can't be mad at that little younger person of you that didn't know any better at the time and wasn't as vocal. But you can take it and reframe it and undo it and have a new energy for gratitude that that experience taught you how to be more outspoken, taught you about your true feelings and how to become strong and say what you meant, because that one time that you didn't like it. So you learned something that you didn't want to do and you're doing something new. You'll be able to put more of your authentic self into the world more fully and more confidently because of a better energy. Notice the fear versus that kind of a confidence that comes. And did you know most anxiety is associated with your unpacked junk? So what you have in there could be contributing to something that you feel every day like, oh, I am just so wound up, or I can't sleep, or I'm, there's a lot of things that we start to identify with, and it just becomes more and more of kind of a bad story instead of a good one, like where you're the hero. So it has a cycle of coming back up over and over because it's still in there. And it's in a painful way that it shows up. That's how you know. You haven't been able to accept it then, if it still hurts. And I didn't say you had to be glad that it happened or that you like that it happened. I just said that you need to see its benefits and that it can play into your learning and your strength in a much more positive way. So whenever you decide to see your childhood as horrible, it'll show up today as some real big worries, because having a horrible childhood keeps you in fear and is scary. But when your childhood's really hard and you went through something very big and you now know better, that's where the magic is. You become so much better of a person. It refines you in so many ways. So whatever you needed to decide to be over with and be done hurting, you have my permission right now. I give you permission to take it and accept it as the reality of what did happen, and not spend any more years being mad at it or arguing with it or wondering why it happened or being upset at somebody or blaming somebody. Because what does it look like you right now today? Could just be left as one of those stories. One of the reasons you may not have been able to let go of it is because you're still trying to make sense of it, pinning blame, excusing today's low energy and poor behavior on it even. And you have formed some routines, right? Some habits. Your mind, body, and spirit is just wrapped around the presence of that negativity in your life. It's quite possibly you're dependent on it even as part of your identity, like I talked about. And we are not our experiences. I just really want you to hear that you are not what happened to you. What happened to you is like walking through a front door and walking out a back door. You go into that experience. You can stay in that house as long as you want. You can look around, but if it's not a good one, just go out the back door. It's something we go through to get to the other side, which means there was a before, and then there's in it, and then there's out of it again. And that's just up to your agency. That agency is our superpower. That's just up for you to decide. If this is the case, then why wait? Help it lose its negative charge. Go at least 5 whys deep. And that's a whole other episode. But ask why. Why do I want to hold on to this? Why? How is this serving me? Why do I want to keep this close? Why do I want this to be a part of my story? This is like a really deflating story. Go 5 deep at least. See what comes up for you. Let's move on to the lessons learned, which I've kind of already hit on, but this present moment will shortly become your past. You're listening to this right now, and this is just going to be like, yesterday I listened to this podcast episode. And just like any moment, you can bring it with you, whether it's heavy or light is your choice, the energy you're giving it. And the lighter things don't have the pull the negative ones do. So have you ever noticed that negative sticks to you in a feeling? Negative pulls you in like it's necessary and urgent. That's why we have news and headlines, you guys, is because it's unfortunately, the way humans like to connect is over this sense of like urgency and oh no, and they know better, and it kind of is captivating. That's why social media is so great, and all those things can be super addicting. All humans reach for connection. It's just innate and instinctual. But just be aware of the energy behind it. If it feels urgent, if it feels upsetting, because positive energy, or at least I tell a lot of my clients to be neutral about it, at least acceptance of, yeah, that did happen. It can build you. Okay, that did happen, and no negative energy around it, just like I'm neutral. Even just getting to neutral is like picking up weights at the gym for your emotional well-being and getting rid of that some of that baggage. It gets you gains, it gains you strength. So if you can get into being neutral about it, then neutral doesn't weigh anything. It doesn't weigh you down in the days ahead. It's the negatively charged baggage that feels like it's against you. It's even easy to reproduce those feelings right now from those stories, and it will be intense. You can reproduce those feelings with intensity, even. And then you go on to talk about it. You could make a great case about it in your favor. No one wants to be told we're still choosing it and that it has destruction in its wake, that you're actually causing by keeping it being a part of you moving into the future. But when you just don't give it any time, space, or energy anymore, it just gets quiet and it goes away, and it can be there to your benefit. Maybe you turned a blind eye to it and you don't realize that it weighs you down just because you've carried it along for so many years, right? I would advise you not to wait, because the damage gets worse and it tries to get your attention much more loud, and great discomfort comes with that, like extreme anxiety and some depressions, when there's really drastic measures that need to be taken if you let it go too far. And it's kind of sneaky because it does feel more important. Like, no, that's important that happened to me. Like, that made me who I am. Okay, that sounds great, but if it feels like you're still at the effect of it, just notice if it feels light or heavy, and which baggage in your luggage does feel lighter and which ones feel heavier. Sometimes our focus is on the heavy ones and they just continue to get heavier. But consider that you have some use for it, and that you could be like neither good or bad about it, just knowing that it did happen and it does live there. And, what would it take for you to carry it along without such weight? But let's talk next on motivation. Your past experiences motivate you today. So all that baggage that's in there, some of it can be really motivating. An example I'll give you is when my kids were young. I noticed I was kind of in a trend. I would not take my kids to do things out during the day because it required me to do too much work. You'd have to pack everything, get everyone ready, bring all the food and supplies, and it just, etc. And my mind told me that it would just be easier and more relaxing to stay at home. I'm not sure how long I did this. I just remember realizing that it had been a long time, and it was actually harder because kids got bored. And when they got bored, they fought. They became irritable, which made it harder for me to be relaxed. So really, relaxing wasn't even happening. And by the end of the day, I was exhausted mentally and emotionally and physically. And that experience just led me to trying to put in the effort to go some places like parks, check out stores, go to the malls, go for walks. And what I found was the change of scenery. Okay, it was, yeah, they threw their fits all the same. Maybe they cried the same, but there was something about like it was lighter. It felt better. Like I wasn't trying to avoid such contention. Like it just came with us and we still did the things. And we had all these memories just added to our bag as we went. But it changed my mind about how hard I was making it, and it was actually making it harder for me. And I kind of watched my kids and I saw they were more stimulated, they were easily distracted into some other area where if you're in the same environment the entire day, day and night, after day, then it just wasn't as conducive to just the change in the overall mood. So my goal shifted from thinking staying home was good and relaxing and doing as little as possible to the way to do it is to get out, do lots, not be bored, wear them out, show them a ton of things, stimulate them all day long so they slept really good. And they had really good naps and they learned to sleep everywhere. I changed my whole thoughts around it. You've been burned before and you're more likely not to go touch those hot things anymore. It's very motivating to actually have the pain associated with the change because it just reminds you to do better. It keeps you going. Lastly, I want to talk about accountability for what is in your baggage. You and only you are 100% responsible for what's in there and how burdensome, how heavy it is for you today. It's all you. We think it's other people. We think it's situations. We think it's, all the bad business deals I did that put my finances where they are, right? And what you decided was important and what you decided wasn't important determines what's in your bag today. Some can recall their past as a bit too heavy on the justice side, like making it a matter of people who should pay for what they did to you. Kind of like a heavy-handed, like my past is like horrible. They shouldn't have done this, and kind of you're at the effect of it, and they should apologize for what they did, and maybe they're even still doing it today, and you still have all these stories. It just weighs on you heavy. Those are some of the heaviest items in your bag. So I suggest you kind of look at it if you're headed there in your head at all about your past stories and whether they did it on purpose and it was malicious or not. Your baggage doesn't care. Right? So what story favors you so your life's lighter and your baggage is lighter? While we're at it, let's talk about those unfortunate events because those are the things that no one person can be blamed for. Like nobody caused it for you, right? Your poor health, maybe an injury, a death, like there's always a way to lighten that too. To undo the downward pull it has on you and to redo it using your free will, you can get really centered in letting go and becoming more creative. When you find a way to get out from underneath the effect of it and you stop giving it all of your energy and attention in a negative way, you'll quit seeing in your mind's eye as it suppressive or holding you down, causing you distress. It's almost a visual thing because you can actually feel it and you can recreate those feelings with it and associate with it. The distress wasn't coming from what happened. It's coming from you still choosing to make it mean something really bad instead of neutral or slightly beneficial or just plain have happened. It's just what was, just what is. So our learning can't come any other way, you guys. There's no way to avoid this. So you get to unpack your baggage just like you packed it. No one's going to show up and do this for you. And as soon as you become aware of it, like the heavy things, oh my gosh, there are some heavy things, just do it. Don't wait. Be in alignment with yourself. Be like, I saw that. I can't convince myself I didn't see that. I should go do something about it. Okay? And I'm your coach, so I'm going to cheer you on in the sidelines to go do it. Give me a call if you need a boost because everybody gets a free call. Show yourself that there's no reason to be afraid and remove the items that hold fear from your baggage, that hold tension, that hold bad stories, that keep you in grudges. I know. And now next, but Elisa, what about carrying other people's baggage? I haven't really hit on that because it's pretty simple. That one shows up in a slightly different way. It's when you have thoughts about that person not being capable. Capable of what? Capable of decisions, doing the right thing. You don't have to weigh yourself down trying to manage their life and yours. We can barely do our own, let's just admit it. Even if you can clearly see that they won't be dealing with their own messes and their own baggage at all. They're never going to do this. I need to do it for them. You really want to help. That's not the way it's done. They won't come to know the weight of their discomfort enough to make it happen. If you pick up half their load, it's not as heavy for them. It's disillusioning. It stunts their growth. Their growth comes from getting completely sick of the pain and the heaviness of their own baggage and finally doing something about it. And whoever's baggage you have, I just mean whoever is weighing you down. Because there's feelings we get when we approach people and when we have these relationships. If someone weighs you down or pulls from you, sometimes we call them takers. It puts pressure on you to the point you feel like you have to do a lot for them and be very convincing, right? That just means you're trying to carry theirs. Either you think in your head they can't do it or they won't do it for themselves. I got to step in. There's good times and good ways to help, but just notice how long, how many years has it been? And are you just taking on that burden and feeling heavier? That means you're trying to carry their baggage and their luggage, right? So that is what it sounds like to carry their baggage, and it makes us crazy people because it's not even ours to carry when we try to pick it up and carry it because we've already got enough of our own. And the hard truth is, if they wanted to, they would be doing it. But maybe they can't see it. Maybe they don't choose it for good reasons right now. It's not their time. We all have good reasons when we do stuff, so maybe it's easier for them to just wait for you to do it for them, or 100 other reasons we could come up with. It's just not on their agenda right now. So just be there for them in other ways and love all the good qualities they do have for now, and help them see that they're capable and that they're good inside, and cheer them on. They may not ever choose it, so come to peace with whether they pack it or whether they unpack it, and whatever they're doing, just come to peace with that. Share this with someone you love and someone you thought of, because that's how the heavens reach us, is through each other. Be one who reflects the light and hope for a brighter future, and cheer each other on. I love you all, and we'll talk in class or our sessions, or just come listen right here next week. Okay, bye.